Now we move on to questions, Church Commissioners and the House of the Commons Commission. Julie Minns.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Not you, they're coming down. Julie Minns.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, with your indulgence, as this is my first questions, I would like to take the opportunity to pay tribute to my predecessor, the former member for South West Bedfordshire, Andrew Selous, for his work as the Second Church Estates Commissioner. And I do certainly hope that I can serve out this role to the best of my abilities for parliamentarians, but also with my commissioners. Turning to my honourable friend's question, the Church of England operates 16,000 parish churches, over half of which are in rural areas, along with church schools. It provides the largest network of buildings in England that serve communities, providing worship and education, but also warm spaces and hubs for activities like food banks, post offices, credit unions and other social and community initiatives.
Julie Minns.
The parish of Bewcastle, which lies in the north-east corner of my constituency and is perhaps best known as home of the Bewcastle Cross, probably the finest example of pre-Norman carving in England. It's a very geographically isolated community, but every single month parishioners organise a vibrant community hub, which is critical in overcoming social isolation and loneliness. As next year will be 1,350 years since the carving of the Bewcastle Cross, will my honourable friend ask the Church Commissioners to consider additional funding for this parish to improve the village hall?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and let me begin by congratulating all the volunteers of the parish of Bewcastle Cross on their work in tackling social isolation and loneliness, and I will look into this specific case she mentions and see what advice can be given to support her. I would also like to commend the work of the Good Shepherd Multi-Agency Trust, also in my honourable friend's constituency, which is also supporting children and families and communities to flourish.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I welcome the Church Commissioner to her place and thank her for her answer to that question. As everyone knows, the purpose of any church is to tell the greatest story ever told, and that's the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's what the purpose of a church is. But alongside of that is the practical purposes of churches. And the Honourable Lady has referred to it. Those are the issues of looking after those of an elderly age group and those who are children as well. And it comes to the childcare, nursery, social media and events that they have all the time. Those are the practical outpourings of the gospel and the lives that we reach. What will be done by the Church Commissioners to ensure that those things also happen alongside the gospel? Thank you.
I thank my honourable member for his question. As he rightly highlights, that there is so much more than the church does in terms of its outreach in our communities, but also ensuring that there's good infrastructure to protect all our communities, including children and young people. Thank you.
Josh Babarinde.
Question number 2, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. When a church is closed, there is a formal legal process that is followed under the Mission and Pastoral Measures 2011. There are currently 127 cases where a new use is being found for closed church buildings. Only 2 are cleared sites and they are waiting for disposal.
I welcome the Honourable Lady to her place. Now, Eastbourne declared a housing emergency last year, and the key thing we need to do to address that is to build our way out of it. The Commissioners preside over a perfect brownfield site for housing, the former St Elizabeth's Church site on Victoria Drive, just down the road from where I went to school. And the challenge is it's been derelict for 20 years, and since the old church on the site was demolished 4 years ago, there has been no sign of development whatsoever. I would urge the Commissioners to develop the site into affordable housing, and I would appeal to her for an urgent update on this situation.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So since 2022, the Church Commissioners have been working with the Diocese of Chichester to market the site and find a developer. I'm pleased to say a developer is in the process of agreeing on a conditional contract for the mixed-use development that will include housing, convenience retail and, as I remember highlighted, some much-needed affordable housing. This development will need planning permission, which is being explored with the local authority now.
Blake Stevens.
Question number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Marsha de Cordova.
Get in my bottom. Right, okay, so local authorities are not currently required to consider the building of new places of worship, but are permitted to include places of worship among a range of community buildings under the National Planning Policy Framework, where local authorities include places of worship among community buildings. Now, the Church Commissioners seek to promote these facilities.
Blake Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Development should be about building places and communities where people can live fulfilling lives, not just houses, and places of worship play an important role in that. Will the honourable member work with ministers to ensure that the government's New Towns Commission incorporates the creation of places of worship in new towns?
I thank the member for his question. Now, the Commissioners are very much invested in placemaking, which is at the core of their approach to bringing forward new homes for communities across the country. The Church Commissioners have sought a meeting with my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, to discuss the Church's strategic land and potential to build up to 70,000 new homes. The Diocese of St Albans has several good examples of how the Church is contributing to the community building in the Mid-Bedfordshire constituency, and I will write to him with further details.
Look, man.
Question 4, Mr. Speaker.
I will get there. Thank you. Do indulge me today, Mr. Speaker, I ask. So the General Synod of the Church of England considered the Wilkinson Review at its meeting in July 2024. The Synod has commissioned a detailed analysis of 4 different options for the organisational structure of safeguarding independence. The intention is to present these to the Synod at the next meeting in February 2025, which I hope to also be present at.
Look, man.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome my honourable friend to her role and the fantastic job she's doing this morning. I have a constituent who's been involved in this process, and so I wonder if she could help me secure a meeting with my constituent to discuss these findings and this work in more detail.
Marsha de Cordova.
Absolutely. I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I will do whatever I can to try and secure a meeting. And I think it's really important just to put on record that there has been much engagement with all survivors. They've been involved in this process throughout, so I will certainly seek to write to him to see what we can do to ensure that a meeting can be secured.
Greg Smith.
Number 5, sir.
Marsha de Cordova.
Thank you.
Running your money today.
I certainly am, and so are my thighs. At the national level, the contribution of local clergy and lay people is usually recognised with the Archbishop's medals or a Lambeth degree. Most dioceses also have their own awards. Clergy and lay volunteers are also eligible for nominations to other relevant orders, decorations, medals, and there are also opportunities within the wider civil honour system where appropriate.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to the Honourable Lady for that answer. I'm full of praise for the hard work and dedication of all our clergy, but sometimes you find an individual who really does go above and beyond. That is true of the Reverend Canon David Williams, who on Christmas Day will lead his last service at St Mary's, Princes Risborough, after 15 years' service to that town and surrounding villages. From the thousands of children he supported through Princes Risborough Lighthouse to his role as a trustee of the Prince's Centre and other charities, including supporting the homeless. Will the Honourable Lady join me in thanking David and his wife Jo for their 15 years of service to Princes Risborough, and what more can the Church do to recognise his and others' hard work?
Thank you. Well, let me place on record my thanks and also express congratulations and also appreciation to the work of Reverend Canon David Williams, but also to his wife, as we know that it's always a partnership, these things, it's not just one. For all his good work in the Honourable Member's constituency, I know that the Diocese of Oxford is thankful for the dedication, pioneering and innovative work of the clergy and their great contributions that they make to the church's ministry, the mission, but also in our local communities as well. So do pass on my thanks, and I do hope at his final service on Christmas morning, the honourable member, will also be there to congratulate him in person.
Matt Rodder.
Number 6, Mr. Speaker.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 85% of the global population have a faith which shapes their day-to-day lives. The Church has been working at a global and national level, as well as a local level, to improve interfaith understanding and engagement. At home, it engages with the national and local networks to support faith and civic leaders, mayors and MPs in building trust and resilience in their local communities, as they did during and after the most recent civil unrest.
Matt Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I welcome my honourable friend to her post, and she's doing a fine job this morning. May I also ask her to join me in congratulating our local faith community across the diverse and tolerant town of Reading for their work supporting one another and understanding each other's faiths. And I would like to also associate myself with this tremendous work and say how wonderful it is to see different faith communities working with one another and working for the whole community together. May I also put on record my support and pay my tribute to the retiring Bishop of Reading, Bishop Olivia, who did some outstanding work leading on tackling knife crime in our community.
Marsha de Cordova.
Thank you, and I thank the member for his question, and also I would just like to join him in congratulating all of those that are working across all faiths to ensure that there is good and strong community cohesion, but also welcome and congratulate his bishop who will be retiring. It's so important that across constituencies like Reading and others that have very broad, diverse communities, but also diversity in its faith. So thank you.
John Butler.
Question number 7, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me get here. Right. Okay. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to group this question also with question 12, and just say it's so important that we do celebrate those women. So on the 12th of March in 2024, it marked the 30th anniversary of the first ordinations of women as priests in the Church of England. Around 6,500 women have been ordained since 1994, and women now make up around 1/3 of the current clergy in England. Obviously, this is a number that is growing, and many services of celebrations has taken place across the country to recognise their considerable contributions that they have made and continue to make in the church. But as we all know, Mr. Speaker, there is still a long way to go and much more work to be done in this area.
John Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations to my honourable friend for the excellent job that she's doing today in her appointment. I want to highlight one particular woman, Bishop Rose. In 2007, she was appointed chaplain to Her Majesty the Queen, the late Majesty the Queen, the first ever black female to hold that role. 2010, first ever black female appointed to the position of 79th chaplain of the Speaker of the House of Commons. And in 2019, Reverend Rose Hudson-Lorcan is now the Bishop of Dover and the Bishop of Canterbury, Britain's first ever black female bishop. Will my honourable friend join me in honouring Bishop Rose?
Marsha.
Well, I will take great pleasure in honouring the great Bishop Rose. As we all know, it is Black History Month, so I think it's a double honour, as well as being a woman. But the Diocese of London marked the anniversary with several services across the country. 180 women gathered to share their experiences of ministry over the past 30 years, and we all know, me personally as well, Mr. Speaker, just what a difference Bishop Rose made when I first came to this place 7.5 years ago. And also, I should pay tribute to Tricia Hollis, who was exactly the Speaker's chaplain for a period of time. Another great and amazing woman. And I'm so proud just of just the role that women are playing in the church. They are breaking down barriers and smashing those glass ceilings, and long may that continue.
Rosie Duffield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome my dear friend to her position. I know she'll be absolutely brilliant. I was thrilled to attend the 30-year anniversary of the first women ordained at Canterbury Cathedral earlier this year, a service conducted by our dear Bishop Rose, who we've just talked about, our much-loved former Speaker's chaplain. Will she join me in congratulating those pioneering women, like my partner's mother, Canon Eileen Routh, who faced some degree of hostility when entering their new vocation some 30 years ago?
I thank my honourable friend for her question, and happily will join her also in congratulating the great Bishop Rose, but also remembering all of those women that did face hostility when they were stepping out, including her future mother-in-law, the Canon Eileen Routh, who faced a lot of hostilities in this space. As I say, there is still so much work to be done, but it is so important that we do celebrate these achievements, because without them, that's what's going to spur us forward to do even more.
Douglas McCullough.
Question number 8, please, Mr. Speaker.
Marsha de Cordova.
Right. Churches and cathedrals are the treasure houses of our local culture and history. The Church of England manages the largest single group of listed buildings in England, with over 12,200 Grade 1 and 2 listed buildings. The value of the work needed to maintain these buildings is currently estimated at £115 million annually on church building repairs, and the backlog is currently approximately £1 billion.
Elizabeth McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are many places of worship in perilous condition, not just in England, but in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, including, Mr. Speaker, my constituency of Western Bartonshire. Mr. Speaker, the listed places of worship grant scheme introduced by the former Chancellor Gordon Brown in 2004 is a UK-wide scheme. Mr. Speaker, can the member for Battersea advise the House what efforts the Trust Commissioner has made towards ensuring the listed places of worship grant scheme is extended beyond March 2025?
Thank you. So the honourable member will know that the Church doesn't receive any regular financial support from the state, and church buildings often do rely on fundraising by local volunteers. But the government's listed places of worship grant scheme is extremely helpful for all our faith communities with listed buildings across the UK, reimbursing the cost of VAT spent on repairs to those listed churches. This year, over 5,000 churches of England buildings received support through this scheme. This is transformational to these local communities and enables work on the vital fabrics of these spaces. Now, it's important that this funding scheme does continue, and the Church has written to the Treasury along with others, and I hope my honourable friends in the Treasury will consider extending it in its upcoming budget later this month.
I welcome the Honourable Lady to her place in her new role and associate myself with her tribute to her predecessor. In recent times, the late Noble Lord Cormac and the other place convened a meeting of MPs of cathedral cities and their deans. There are plans to resurrect that meeting. I would ask if she would meet with me to discuss how we can support her in plans to lobby the Treasury for capital grants for our great English cathedrals, including Salisbury, to maintain their presence in our country.
Yes, very happy to meet with the honourable gentleman.
Kelly Foy.
9.
Smith and Well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I say how glad I am to give my friend from Battersea a break this morning? Can I also praise the former chair of the Administration Committee, Sir Charles Walker? He has been a great friend, a great champion for this House. Can I thank my honourable friend for asking this important question? The House of Commons administration is committed to providing period products for emergency use. These are available free of charge in selected toilets across the parliamentary estate. No one should be put in an uncomfortable situation due to lack of access to emergency period products.
Mr. Speaker, and can I just say how glad I am to be asking this question today so that my honourable friend can also earn his pay. period products in the workplace are essential items, but in far too many places of work, they're seen as optional items. And I know there are a few places around the parliamentary estate where free period products can be accessed, but more places are required, Mr. Speaker, and we can't leave out our constituency offices. So may I ask my honourable friend if they will ensure that more period products are made available both here and in our constituency offices around the country?
Nick Smith.
The honourable member makes a great point. The House Service was asked a year ago to provide period products for emergency use, and it engages with groups such as our workplace equality networks to ensure accessible products throughout our House. Now, regarding constituency offices, as members of Parliament, we are responsible for our staff. So away from this estate, I would expect the member, as the employer, to decide on what provision to arrange for their teams. However, I'm happy to take this back to the Administration Committee for further consideration of take-up and distribution, and will contact my honourable friend in good time on this matter.
Right, Dame Meg Leah.
Number 10, Mr. Speaker.
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the Restoration and Renewal Programme Client Board earlier this year published the strategic case for the R&R programme. This sets out how to deliver the R&R works, which will be developed in detail over the next year. This detailed work, which will include robust cost, timescale and risk estimates for all three options, is expected to be presented to the House in 2025 to enable an evidence-based decision on how best to restore our lovely palace.
Dame Meg Hilly.
Speaker, it feels a bit like Groundhog Day. We've been talking about restoration and renewal for 40 years. Bits are falling off the building. There are leaks in every office I've had in this building in each part of the estate, and we all know the problems of asbestos and the issues in the basement. So he's given me the timetable, but can he tell me that he will be championing this issue, that we will finally get to a resolution before we have a catastrophic event in this place that destroys this World Heritage Site?
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, I know that my honourable friend has been an advocate for this programme for many years. Together, as members of the Public Accounts Committee, we sought safety for all of us here on the estate, the modernisation of our facilities and value for money. Detailed designs are being developed, surveys continue. The work of the R&R programme has been continuing at pace over the past 6 months, following the work of the Client Board and the Programme Board. We'll work together on this. Thank you, Mr.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apologies for not being here earlier. Can the honourable gentleman confirm that we are spending more than £1 million a month on just maintenance of this palace? And clearly, the long delay, and there's no reason for this, but the long delay of making these decisions just lengthens the process, is more money for the taxpayer to pay, and indeed is leading to more degradation of this palace as we sit here.
Nick Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member is right about the importance of moving faster and reducing cost on this important subject. I don't know the detailed answer to the question he has asked, but I'll get back to him later. Thank you.
Jodie Gosling.
Question 12, Speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honourable friend's constituency is under the jurisdiction of the Diocese of Coventry, and there is currently a vacancy for the diocesan bishop. However, all of the contact details for the bishop's office, diocesan staff and the cathedral staff are found on their website. Contact details for local clergy are also available on the website or the church near you.
Jodie Gosling.
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for their response and welcome them to their new role and the brilliant job that they're doing. Constituents in Nuneaton have raised concerns about finding available burial plots. Given the recent consultation from the Law Commission, can my honourable friend please update the House on proposals to increase burial capacity in England?
Marsha to Cordova.
Thank you. The Church of England contributed to the proposals developed by the Law Commission, and they have developed those proposals sensitively to address the complex questions around burial and cremation law. All sides recognise the growing need and the pressure for burial space, the challenges facing burial grounds and maintenance. Reusing grave spaces in churchyards in some circumstances is a long-standing and lawful practice in the Church of England, ensuring existing remains are left undisturbed. But there are some churchyards that are declared full and closed by law, which are unable to be reopened for new burials.
That completes the questions.